Hi everyone, it's Emmett from Pi My Life Up. In this video, we'll be showing you how to install the official Ubisoft Connect client on your Steam Deck. The main reason you'll probably want to install Ubisoft Connect to your Steam Deck is to gain access to games that you purchased through that platform. It also gives you access to the Ubisoft Plus game subscription service, which in some cases can be a more affordable way of playing games. To install Ubisoft Connect to your Steam Deck, you'll need to change to desktop mode. To access desktop mode, first open up the Steam menu by clicking the Steam button on your Steam Deck and then selecting the power option and then selecting switch to desktop. Once you're in desktop mode, you'll want to open a web browser. In our case, this means you'll be opening up Firefox. With the web browser open, tap the address bar at the top and then bring up the on-screen keyboard by pressing the X button. You'll now want to type in https://ubisoftconnect.com and then pressing R2 to enter. Once done, close the keyboard by pressing the B button. Once the page is loaded, scroll down to the bottom and then click the Download Ubisoft Connect PC button. Once the installer has finished downloading, close out of the web browser and then double click the Steam icon on your desktop. Once Steam is opened, click Add a Game in the bottom left hand corner and then click Add a non-Steam game. You'll then want to click the Browse button. With the Browse window now open, we want to find and select the Ubisoft Connect installer that we downloaded earlier. To find this, change to the Downloads folder using the sidebar and then double click the item called Ubisoft Connect Installer.exe. Now verify that the Ubisoft Connect installer is listed here and is currently selected, and then click the Add Selected Programs button. With the installer now added, change to your library and then switch it so only installed programs are shown. Once done, find and select the entry called Ubisoft Connect Installer.exe. Once you've selected it, click the cog icon and then click Properties. Within this screen, switch to the Compatibility tab and then tick the Force the use of a specific Steam Play compatibility tool checkbox. Once selected, click the select box underneath it and then select Proton Experimental. We are doing this as we need the Ubisoft installer to run under the Proton compatibility layer. The reason for this is that the Ubisoft Connect installer and the Ubisoft Connect programs are Windows native applications and haven't been built for the Linux operating system that the Steam Deck runs on. After doing this, close out of this dialog by pressing the X button. We can now begin installing Ubisoft Connect to our Steam Deck by clicking the play button. You'll now be prompted on what language to use for Ubisoft Connect. Select your language and then click the OK button. If you find the controls to be a bit unresponsive, hold down the Steam button while clicking. You should also be able to use the touch screen. You'll now be asked if you agree with the license agreement for Ubisoft Connect. If you agree, click the I accept button. You'll now be asked to select the install location. Keep the default setting and click the install button. Once the install finishes, click the next button. This next screen will ask if you want to run Ubisoft Connect immediately. Untick this option and then click the Finish button. There are a few tasks we need to complete before we can actually start using Ubisoft Connect on our Steam Deck. What we need to do now is adjust the shortcut we have created so that it runs the Ubisoft Connect launcher and not the installer. We need to do it this way so that the Ubisoft Connect client will continue to use the same Proton folder. To do this, open up the Properties screen by clicking the cog icon and then the Properties option. The first thing we'll want to do is rename this shortcut away from Ubisoft Connect Installer.exe. Double tap this text box to highlight the text and then press the X button to bring up the keyboard. Now type in a name such as Ubisoft Connect. Once done, press the B button to close out of the on-screen keyboard. Our next step is to change the launch target to the Ubisoft Connect client. Do this by clicking the Browse button next to the target field. With the file browser open, click the settings icon and then make sure Showed Hidden Files is turned on. Once done, change to your home directory using the sidebar and then navigate to the .local directory. and then into the share folder and then you'll want to open the folder called Steam, and then from here open the Steam Apps directory, and then into the Compat Data folder. We are now in the directory where Steam keeps all of its Proton layers. This includes where we installed the Ubisoft Connect Client. Sort this folder by newest to oldest by clicking the Date Modified column until the arrow is pointing down. The directory you want should now be at the top of this list. Open it to continue. Within this folder, you'll then want to enter the PFX directory and then drive Unline C. And then navigate into the Program Files x86 folder and then into Ubisoft and then Ubisoft Game Launcher, and then scroll down until you find the program called Ubisoft Connect.exe and then select it. Once selected, let's save the hassle of having to navigate back to this directory by double clicking the target field, pressing L2 to bring up the context menu and then selecting copy. Now highlight all the text in the Start in text box, press L2 again, but this time press the paste option. You'll then want to select the end of this text and then delete the Ubisoft Connect.exe that's at the end of this path. With that done, highlight the Start in text box again, press L2 and then select the copy option. You'll need this for a step later on in this guide. The last thing we'll need to do is use the on-screen keyboard to add a double quote to the start and end of both the Start in and target fields. If we don't do this, Ubisoft Connect will not launch properly on your Steam Deck. Once done, you can quit out of this dialog by clicking the X button in the top right corner. Our next step is to create a folder where your Ubisoft Connect launcher will install games on your Steam Deck. To do this, open up the File Explorer by clicking the folder icon in the taskbar. Now start off by changing to your home directory and then right clicking using the L2 button and then hovering over the Create New option and then selecting Folder. Now use this text box to type in a new name for this folder. In our case, we're going to call ours Ubisoft Games and then we're going to press R2 to save this new folder. With the folder created, click the split button in the top right hand corner, double tap the address bar and then select the text, press L2 and then select the paste option. Once you're done, click the tick button to confirm the new folder address. Now that we're in the folder where Ubisoft Games Launcher was installed, click Ubisoft and then click Drive Underline C. Now drag the Ubisoft Games folder you created onto the right hand side and then select the link here option. This created a symbolic link that makes it really easy to access your Ubisoft games without needing to navigate to the Proton directory. We can now return to gaming mode by double clicking the Return to Gaming Mode icon on the desktop. Now that you're back in gaming mode, open up the Steam menu by clicking the Steam button, then change to the library screen, and then press R1 until you select the non-Steam tab. On the screen you should see Ubisoft Connect. Select it and then click the play button. The first time you load up Ubisoft Connect, you'll need to fill in the email and password for your Ubisoft Connect account. Once done, ensure the Keep Me Logged In checkbox is ticked and then click the Login button. Once Ubisoft Connect is running, we will want to adjust the default install location. We can do this by clicking the user icon and then selecting the settings menu. Now use the sidebar to change to the download screen and then click the little folder icon next to the default game installation location option. Use this screen to navigate into My Computer and then into your C drive and then select your Ubisoft Games folder. Once selected, click the OK button. With that done, you have now finished setting up Ubisoft Connect on your Steam Deck. You can now begin to use it to install any of the games that you own on Ubisoft directly to your Steam Deck. For this example, we'll be installing the game The Division onto our Steam Deck. We'll speed this footage up a bit so you don't have to wait ages to see it run. One of the neat things about using Ubisoft Connect on your Steam Deck is that it identifies your Steam Deck controls as an Xbox controller. And since it has controller support for its interface, you can actually navigate and install games and run them incredibly easily. At this point, we hope you have also managed to get Ubisoft Connect installed to your Steam Deck and up and running. If you like this guide, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, have a good one.